Namaskar to all of you, dear all seekers of the divine life. You all are welcome to this second session of Life Divine. I am pleased to welcome you on behalf of Sri Aurobindo Integral Life Center, Oro University, Surat, to this second session on Life Divine. We all began this journey towards the divine life last Saturday on 1st October 2022, sharp at 3:30 p.m. It's a golden hour. It's a moment of pride, joy, and a new beginning of our sadhana. Sri Sharad Bhai enlightened all of us present about 4 parts of the book and all the 56 chapters, 14 chapters for each part, as a concise summary, a Herculean task to give a gist in 1 hour, but sir did it very, very meaningfully. So let us start this journey again further, which is I call a journey of growing within and living within. We start today the study of chapter 1 of the book 1. Sri Aurobindo has titled this chapter as Omnipresent Reality and the Universe. I take a very positive note of what Dr. Kiran Madam has said in an email today, one selected portions and highlights of the same chapter. So let us aspire for the divine life. Over to Sri Sharad Bhai Joshi. Before sir begins with the session, I would like to share with all of you that we just decided that every Thursday, 3:30 p.m. in the office of Director SLC, Dr. Kiran Ma'am's office, we'll have a physical meeting for reading selected passages and the book, The Life Divine. And this session will continue to be there on 15th, that is coming Saturday. But then because of Diwali and preoccupations of Sri Sharad Bhai for his family engagement and visit to Pondicherry and Hyderabad centers, we'll have a pause of about 2 weeks or maybe even 3 weeks. So you might receive the link because it is system generated message, but we will send you a personal invite again couple of days before the session actually resumes. So we will again meet on coming Saturday 15th. I thank you in advance to all of you, and I request Sharad Bhai Joshi to lead this journey of Life Divine. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Last Saturday, we had a detailed discussion as to the importance of the major work of Sri Aurobindo called the Magnum Opus. And we had sort of seen the structure of this monumental work. We classified the different groups of chapters that deal with different aspects of the life divine, and we had a discussion on the review that was carried out in Times Literary Supplement when this book was published. Today we will start our journey with chapters, and we will have the first chapter today, that is the human aspiration. The group in which this chapter occurred, as said by Professor Nimesh Bhai, is the omnipresent reality and the universe. So here discusses in these 28 chapters the omnipresent reality, that is the transcendent reality, or present everywhere, in every part of the universe, in every cell of the universe. And what is the relationship of this omnipresent reality with the universe? That is the manifestation. So there is a manifestation, and there is a Param Chetana or the omnipresent reality. So the omnipresent reality is when it manifests, it descends from Sat to Tapas, that is uh, consciousness, force, and then to delight, and then to supermind, and then to mind, life, and the material being. So these are the 7 steps of its descent. And so this omnipresent reality creates or manifests itself in every part of the universe. And then he summarizes these descent or these manifestation in 26, 27, and 28 chapters. So this is the first part of Life Divine, the book 1, consisting of 28 chapters, and it is about 1/3 in volume of the whole book of the Life Divine. So we will begin with the first chapter, and the title of the first chapter is The Human Aspiration. The aspiration that since long, since its beginning, since its inception, humanity has been harboring in its bosom. So that is the aspiration for something higher, something better, something good, and that is what he is discussing here. Now, on the beginning of every chapter, he quotes from the scriptures the relevant idea that is going to be discussed in that chapter. And here also, in the human aspiration, the chapter in human aspiration, he quotes from the Veda a 2 mantras or 3 or 4 mantras. First 2 from the Kutsa Angirasa, that is Rigveda. What it says is, Parayatinam Anveti Parthaha, Ayadinam Prathama Shashwatinam, Yuchanti Jiva Mudirayantyusha, Mridam Kam Chanabodhayanti. Rabindra has translated it in English. She follows the goal of those that are passing on beyond. She is the first in the eternal succession of the dawns that are coming. Parayatinam Anveti Partha. Those dawns that have gone before, she follows them. And Ayatinam Prathama Shasthatinam, those who are coming, the dawns that are coming. Today, it is the first of them, and the coming dawns are infinite in nature. So eternal succession of the dawns that are coming. Then Vyuchanti Jiva Mudirayantisha Amritam Kam Janabodhayanti. The Usha, Vyuchanti Jiva Mudirayanti Usha. Usha widens, bringing out that which lives, awakening someone who was dead. Vyuchanti Jivam Udirayanti. She widens Vyuchanti and she makes awake those who are sleeping. And then one who is dead, she awakes them to life. What is her scope? Yat samaya bhavadi yascha vyushuryascha ninam vyuchan anupurva krupate vavasana pradidhyana joshamanya bhirati. What is her scope? When she harmonizes with the dawns that shone out before and those that now must shine. She desires the ancient mornings and fulfills their light. Projecting forward her illumination, she enters into communion with the rest that are to come. So she harmonizes the past dawns to the present and to the future dawns that are to come. So Usha in the Veda is a symbol of a new consciousness, a divine consciousness. That is a symbol that Veda uses. And here, the new consciousness that is now dawning upon the human mind or human consciousness, she harmonizes them with the past and creates the new dawns that are to come in the future. Threefold are those supreme births. Now, here is another mantra from Vamadeva, and there are 2 mantras here. Trirasita Parama Santi Satya Spardha. Devasya Janiman Yagnehe, Anante Anta Parivita Agat, Shuchi, Shuchi Shukro Ariyo Rorujanam, Yo Mardeshu Amrita Hrutava, Devo Deveshu Aradir Nidhayi, Hota Yajishto, Manna Shuchadhyai, Havyayir Manushayir Yadhyai, Urdu Bhava, Pratividyadhyasman, Avishpunashva Devyagnehe. Here, Vamadeva in the fourth mandal of the Rigveda describes threefold supreme births of this divine force. This divine force is the Agni. Agni is a symbol of the divine will. So three, 4 are those supreme births of the divine force that is in the world. They are true. They are desirable. He moves there with wide over within the infinite and shines pure, luminous and fulfilling. That which is immortal in mortal and possessed of the truth is a God and established inwardly as an energy working out in our divine power. Then the last one, Urdu Bhava, become high uplifted, O stand, O Agni, pierce all veils, pierce all the veils that are hindering the manifestation of this divine force, manifest in us things of the Godhead. So let those powers of the Godhead be manifested in us. So these are the mantras that are quoted in the beginning of this chapter, that is human aspiration. So Aurobindo quotes from Shastras, from the Veda or Upanishad or Gita or any other relevant quotation that is in line with or in tune with the point or the point that he is going to discuss in that chapter. So now we begin with the chapter itself, the text of the chapter. The earliest preoccupation of man in his awakened thoughts, and as it seems, is inevitable and ultimate preoccupation. For it survives the longest periods of skepticism and returns after every banishment. It is also the highest which is thought can understand. It manifests itself in the divination of Godhead, the impulse towards perfection, the search after pure truth and unmixed bliss, the sense of a secret immortality. The ancient dawns of human knowledge have left us their witness to this constant aspiration. Today we see a humanity satiated but not satisfied by victorious analysis of the externalities of nature, preparing to return to its primeval longings. The earliest formula of wisdom promises to be its last: God, light, freedom, immortality. Now, Aurobindo here says that since its inception, since its beginning, since the first day when man started thinking, he sort of presages or divines something divine behind the natural forces, and this he also aspires for a better and better things, and this aspiration is constant. Even after every punishment, even after when they are exiled, they come back with a larger force. And these aspirations are formulated in terms of the divination of a Godhead. That is a premonition of something which is divine in us, the impulse towards perfection. Something better should be there in our life. The search after pure truth and unmixed bliss, the pure divine Ananda, and at the same time, pure truth, where mind here, there is a mixing of truth and error, the sense of secret immortality, sense of secret immortality. Ultimately, human being wants to be immortal, to live permanently, to live forever, and that is formulated in terms of a sense of immortality, because in his divine nature he is immortal, but in his external life he is not immortal, he is mortal, and therefore he aspires for the immortality of the inner being. The ancient dawns of man, human knowledge, have left us their witness to this constant aspiration. Sharad says that since the beginning of human being, these aspiration has been constant. Today we see the humanity satiated but not satisfied by the victorious analysis of the externalities of nature, preparing to return to its primeval longing. Today science is, triumphant, and science tries to explain and banish the kind of, this aspiration as a unnecessary thing for the benefit of humanity. But even when it is banished, it comes back again and again, and we cannot say that science has given us so many things. It is satiated, but it is not satisfied, because humanity is not completely fulfilled. Its aspiration is not fulfilled by the victorious analysis of the externalities of nature. That is science doing it. And so, Sharad says that now the humanity is preparing to return, come back to the primeval longings, the earliest formula of life, which was the God, light, freedom, and immortality. These aspirations are coming to be, manifest again in the humanity, and mankind is now prepared to accept them as the aspiration, the permanent aspiration. But Sharad says in the next paragraph that these persistent ideals of their age are at once a contradiction of normal experience and the affirmation of higher and deeper experiences which are abnormal to humanity. See, these experiences, our day-to-day life, is completely in contradiction to our aspiration. We aspire for God, we aspire for unmixed bliss, we aspire for the truth, we aspire for immortality. But in our practical life, we are experiencing just the opposite factors. And so, it can be obtained, which are abnormal to humanity and only to be attained in their organized entirety by revolutionary individual effort. Revolutionary individual effort means by an individual tapasya, by an individual reversing its consciousness from outer to the inner and realizing those ideals, realizing the omnipresent reality everywhere. So that is the individual, revolutionary individual effort, or an evolutionary general progression. Or just as there is an evolution going on, that evolution makes on earth the progressive manifestation of the consciousness from material beings, from material things to animal kingdom, from animal kingdom to man, and that is a progressive evolution on earth. So there are two kinds of evolution going on: an individual evolution that is effected by rebirth, and that can be done, that can be obtained in its fullness by a revolutionary individual effort, or a general evolution that is going on in nature. To know, possess, and be the divine being in animal and egoistic consciousness, to convert our twilight or obscure physical mentality into a plenary supramental illumination, to build peace and self-existent bliss, where there is only a space of transitory satisfaction besieged by physical pain and emotional suffering, to establish an infinite freedom in a world which presents itself as a group of mechanical necessities, to discover and realize the immortal life in a body subjected to death and constant mutation. This is offered towards as manifestation of God in matter. The goal of nature in a terrestrial evolution. In the terrestrial evolution, ultimately, what human aspiration leads to is these four kinds of achievements: to establish infinite freedom, and to satisfaction, complete satisfaction instead of a transitory satisfaction, supramental illumination instead of mechanical necessities, we discover and realize the immortal life in a body subjected to death and constant mutation. This is offered to us as manifestation of God in matter. This is what obscurely, unknowingly, humanity is striving for in its uh, turn towards the aspiration. And the goal of nature in a terrestrial evolution, individually you can, aspire for these things, but nature herself, by its progressive evolution, is aspiring for these things, and that is the terrestrial evolution. To ordinary material intellect, which takes its present organization of consciousness for the limit of its possibilities, the direct contradiction of the unrealized ideals with the realized facts. These are all ideals. We want to have the realization of God, realization of truth, realization of freedom. All these are our ideals. But our practical life is just a kind of a contradiction to this. And therefore, we say that the final argument against their validity. So realized fact against the unrealized ideals is a final argument against their validity. But if we take a more deliberate view of the world's working, that direct opposition appears rather as a part of nature's profoundest method and the seal of her completest sanction. What Chairman Doi brings out here is a secret that nature starts with two oppositions and then works out further harmony. So there is a material universe and there is an aspiration of human being. These aspirations then works out slowly and tries to realize these ideals in the form of a advanced evolution of these things. And so here Sri says that nature works by opposition, appears rather as a part of nature. Direct opposition appears rather as part of nature's profoundest method and the seal of her completest sanction. When she puts into juxtaposition two opposite contradictions, then she means that these oppositions must be worked out, must be harmonized, and a new creation be effected out of this. Now here, Sri Aurobindo says a very beautiful sentence. For all problems of existence are essentially problems of harmony. It is the harmony which nature seeks. It is the harmony which she has effected between material things and the life. To rise, they arise from the perception of an unsolved discord and the instinct of an undiscovered attempt at unity. To raise attempt with an unsolved discord is possible for the practical and more animal part of man, but impossible for his fully awakened mind. And usually even his practical parts only escape from the general necessity either by shutting out the problem or by accepting a rough utilitarian and unillumined compromise. Nature seeks a harmony. Life and matter in their own sphere, as much as mind in the arrangement of its perceptions. The greater the apparent discord, the greater the apparent disorder, and the materials offered, or the apparent disparateness, even to the irreconcilable opposition of the elements that have to be utilized, the stronger is the spur. The greater the contradiction, the greater is the force of nature to harmonize these disparate contradictory elements. And it drives towards a more subtle and puissant order than can normally be the result of a less difficult endeavor. The accordance of active life is the material of form. Active life in, let us say, animals, with the material of form, with the form in which these active life is housed, in which condition of activity itself seems to be inertia. The material world is made up of inertia, is one problem of opposite that nature has solved and seeks always to solve it better with greater complexity. What she has done is she has combined the life and the matter, material world and the life she has combined and produced the vegetable kingdom as well as the animal kingdom. So there the harmonization between the two opposite or disparate elements, the matter and the life, has been harmonized. For its perfect solution would be the material immortality of a fully organized and mind supporting uh, animal body. In an animal body, fully organized mind, that is the ultimate goal of nature in doing this. The accordance of conscious mind and conscious will with a form and a life in themselves, not overly self-conscious and capable of best of a mechanical and subconscious will, is another problem of opposites in which she has produced astonishing results and aims always at higher marvels. What she has done again is she has developed mind, she has evolved mind in a material body and a life which is always subjected to death, and that is the harmony she has achieved to a certain extent. She has produced astonishing results, and uh, her ultimate goal is uh, is no longer seeking but possessed of truth and light with a practical omnipotence which would result from the possession of a direct and perfected knowledge, where instead of only half knowledge and half ignorance, which is the characteristic of mind, she wants to achieve a perfected knowledge. Not only then is the upward impulse of man towards the accordance of her higher opposites rational in itself, but is the only logical completion of a rule and effort that seem to be the fundamental method of nature and very sense of her universal striving. Sri Aurobindo now here is hinting that if the ultimate goal of a harmonization of mind with life and the material body, that is already produced as astonishing results, then beyond that also you can have a mind which is completely possessed of the truth, a sense of immortality. That is the next goal in the life. So we cannot say that here it will end. We seek of the evolution of life in matter. We speak of the evolution of life in matter and evolution of in mind in matter. When we say that she has harmonized matter and life together, what we mean by is that she has brought out the hidden life from matter. So Sri Aurobindo says that we say that there is an evolution of life from matter, an evolution of mind from life possessed of matter. So, but evolution has no meaning unless we accept the Vedantic solution. The Vedanta says that the matter is a veiled life. Life is a veiled mind, and mind is a veiled supermind. So there is an evolution of the higher consciousness in mind, in life, in matter. So behind matter, there is a divine force, and that force slowly comes out. So that is an evolution. So we say that the matter veils in itself the consciousness, the life veils in itself the consciousness, the mind veils. There is behind the mind, there is a consciousness. There seems to be no reason why life should evolve out of material elements or mind out of living forms unless you accept the Vedantic solution that life is already involved in matter and mind in life, because in a sense, matter is a form of veiled life. Life is a form of veiled consciousness. And then there seems to be a little objection to a further step in the series and the admission that mental consciousness may itself be only a form and veil of a higher state which are beyond mind. So here, Sri Aurobindo hints that beyond mind we can evolve the further degree of consciousness in terms of the supermind. And in that case, the unconquerable impulse of man toward God, light, bliss, freedom, immortality presents itself in its right place in the chain, and simply the imperative impulse by which nature is seeking to evolve beyond mind, and appears to be as natural, true, and just as the impulse towards life, which it implanted in certain forms of matter, or the impulse towards mind, which he has planted in certain forms of life. Just as life has evolved out of matter because matter is there is a hidden life in the matter. Just as life has evolved mind because life involved or the mind is involved in life. Similarly, we can say that the supermind is veiled behind the mind, and so it must gradually evolve out of the full to evolve the necessary organs and faculties. As the impulse of the mental and the plant up to its full organization in man. So in man himself, there is the same ascending series, the preparation, if nothing more, of a higher and divine life. So man is bound to evolve the divine life out of himself by manifesting the supramental new consciousness. Now, Sharad gives us a very beautiful sentences. The animal is a living laboratory in which nature has, it is said, worked out man. So animal is a living laboratory in which nature has worked out man. Man himself may well be a thinking and living laboratory in whom and with whose conscious cooperation she wills to work out the Superman, the God. So here, Sharad gives a logical conclusion or logical series that man can evolve out of himself the Superman or God. Or shall we not say rather to manifest God? Because ultimately, God is hidden in matter. God is hidden behind life. God is hidden in the workings of mind. And so in the supermind, it is full manifestation takes place. So it is the manifestation of God that we are talking about. For if evolution is a progressive manifestation by nature of that which slept or worked in her involved, it is also the overt realization of that which she secretly is. We cannot then bid her pause at a given stage of her evolution, nor have we the right to condemn with the religionist as perverse and presumptuous, or with the materialist a disease or hallucination, any intention she may evince or effort she may make to go beyond it. Religionists may say that there is no possibility of a manifestation of God on earth, or the materialists may say that all this talk about God and everything is a hallucination. Instead of that, we should concentrate ourselves in the practical life, practical progress of humanity, rather than talk about imaginary things, which we talk about God and truth and all these things. So thus the eternal paradox and eternal truth of a divine life in animal body and immortal aspiration or reality inhabiting a mortal tenement, a single and universal consciousness representing itself in limited mind and divided ego, a transcendent, indefinable, timeless and spaceless being who alone renders time and space and cosmos possible. And in all these, the higher truth realizable by the lower dumb justify themselves to the deliberate reason as well as to the persistent instinct or intuition of mankind. So mankind is justified in having the aspiration, the religious aspiration for something better, something good, and complete freedom and complete sense of immortality. Attempts are sometimes made to have done finally with questioning which have so often been declared insoluble, where how to complete, how to effect the manifestation of God on earth. These are impossible things. And so these are insoluble problems. And therefore, mankind should be persuaded to limit their mental activities to the practical and immediate problems of existence, material existence in the universe. But such evasions are never permanent in their effect because there is a secret divinity behind the human being. There is a secret divinity in the universe, in the nature, and that asserts itself. That secret divinity asserts itself and brings out in the form of aspiration, in the form of an aspiration, the religious aspiration, the spiritual aspiration, and it cannot be dubbed or it cannot be cancelled. It cannot be suppressed. It must come out in a better way. And from that, by that hunger, mysticism profits and new religions arise to replace the old that have been destroyed, or state of significance by skepticism, which itself could not satisfy because although its business was inquiring, it was unwilling sufficiently to inquire. See, mankind, shall, shelves the problems of life. It does not go much deeper into it, and it does not try to find the ultimate solution, taking care of or taking cognizance of all the aspirations of humanity because they are just. So that is the problem with to attempt to deny or stifle a truth because it is yet obscure, and superstition or a crude faith is itself a kind of obscurantism. Uh, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said that there is nothing like a superstition. All superstition ultimately leads to some kind of knowledge, and therefore we should not throw away all the aspirations that man may have as superstitions. Must turn out eventually to have been no acceptance of the true truth of nature, but a revolt against the sacred, mightier will of the great mother. The great mother nature, she is trying to bring out something better in life. And therefore, if we do not say or take cognizance of this aspiration in nature, which is secretly working in humanity, then we are trying to revolt against this mother's striving, mother nature's striving in the form of aspiration. It is better and more rational to accept what she will not allow us as a race to reject and lift it from the sphere of blind instinct, obscure intuition, and random aspiration into the light of a reason and an instructed and consciously self-guiding will. What intelligent people should do is that the aspiration, the legitimate aspiration of humanity should be brought out from the encumbrance of the sort of a belief and bring it in the plenary light of the reason and justify that it is necessary as part of the nature's working behind a veil or which, and if there is any higher light of illumined intuition or self-revealing truth which is now in man, either obscured, obstructed, or inoperative, or works with intermittent glancings, as if from behind a veil, or with occasional displays as of northern lights in the material skies, then there also we need not fear or fear to aspire. For it is likely that such is the form and veil, and through the splendors of that light may lie the path of our progressive self-enlargement into whatever highest state is humanity's ultimate resting place. So, Sri Aurobindo justifies in this chapter is now ending here, Sri Aurobindo justifies human aspiration as an, uh, insatiable or unsatisfied, which is trying to seek its own manifestation in the form of religion, in the form of intuition, in the form of kind of aspiration. And so intelligent people, or we should take cognizance of this drive of nature to bring out a sacred truth behind the human aspiration and put it in a plenary light and uh, take cognizance of the step of evolution and further evolution from man to superman. So here, Aurobindo is talking about the human aspiration. He justifies the human aspiration that now humanity is coming back to this idea of uh, the evolution of consciousness. Actually, when we say the evolution. We are talking about the evolution of consciousness. It is the consciousness that is progressively manifesting itself. The consciousness is hidden in matter. चेतना ये जड़ तत्व में निहित है. That consciousness is brought out in the jets, percolations, in the form of an animal. I mean, in the form of a vegetable kingdom. In vegetable kingdom, they have a feeling, but they cannot talk, they cannot move. So that first manifestation of consciousness, a rudimentary manifestation of consciousness is there in the vegetable kingdom. That is further strengthened or made larger in the insects, in the animals. In the animals, there is a rudimentary mind which cannot think, but can take stock of what is happening around us, and they have their own instinct. And this instinct is a manifestation of the consciousness that is a rudimentary mind, but it is mainly the life, the mind working in the life. That is the manifestation of the consciousness in animals. In man, there are two things: mind, the thinking, and its manifestation. So mind can think and think about various things, take cognizance of the surroundings around him, and find out new things. And that is the thinking process the mind has. That is a further manifestation of the consciousness, another degree of consciousness. And that degree of consciousness is the mental consciousness. And that mental consciousness can have a kind of a civilization. That is a mental civilization. And that mental civilization, man has three kinds of elements, three kinds of instruments: the thought, the speech, and the action. And for action, the animal 4 legs are reduced to 2 legs, and man becomes erect, so that his frontal legs are converted into hands, and that can work as an action. So for a mental civilization, 3 things are required: thought, speech, and action. So the necessary change in the physiognomy of the human being has been effected. The animal now is turned into a human being who becomes erect, so that he can have mental civilization. So this mental civilization is a further progress of the manifestation of consciousness. And in this consciousness, not only mental civilization, but he has created culture. He has created a concept of religion. He has, created a kind of different kinds of philosophies, literature, poetry, arts. All these kind of manifestation of his mental formula or mental power is affected in the mental civilization and the culture also. This culture is consisting of different kinds of poetry, different kinds of religious formulation, different kinds of philosophies, and then some instinct of spirituality and some preliminary realization of the spiritual powers by our great yogis and the prophets. So these preliminary, kind of manifestation of spirituality in human being is a further progress of consciousness. So ultimately, this evolution is not an evolution of species, by just as said by the Darwin, but it is basically an evolution of consciousness. So consciousness is hidden behind the force. That force brings out its consciousness in the form of matter. Matter hides in itself the consciousness which works in the different formulations of material objects. Because, in atom, there is an electron and there is a proton and there is a nucleus. That arrangement is itself done by some kind of consciousness behind it. But that consciousness is manifested in the works itself. So in the material field, in the material domain, the consciousness is involved in its own work. It does not separate itself from the work. So work and manifestation of consciousness is there in the material being. Then it slowly releases itself in the form of sensation in the vegetable kingdom as well as in the animal kingdom, animal manifestation. And then in man, it is the mental consciousness that is revealed. So in the evolution is a story of the growth of consciousness. Evolution is the evolution of consciousness, and therefore mental consciousness is not enough. The mental consciousness is not possessed of the truth, the ultimate power of the universe, and therefore there must be a further evolution of consciousness. And so Sri Aurobindo says that now this consciousness must give place or evolve into a plenary supramental consciousness, and that supramental consciousness can have a complete truth and manifestation of a divine life on earth. So here, Sri Aurobindo lays the fundamental foundation of the human aspiration and the logic of things, and justifies that there is an evolution of consciousness, and that consciousness must bring about ultimately the further evolution of mental consciousness into a spiritual consciousness, a supramental consciousness, and that may lead to a divine life. So this is the gist of the first chapter, although he has, ultimately said that he justifies the human aspiration, and human aspiration must be not neglected as a kind of a hidden thing which is not useful to mankind for its practical progress, but it is the thing, even if it is banished. See, there were times when the religion was completely banned or was neglected, but then it returns in a different form. Now today we see that religion has asserted itself, but in a wrong way. But religion, all religions must lead to spirituality, and that spirituality is a further progress of manifestation of the consciousness. And therefore, this obscurantist manifestation of the aspiration of human being in terms of the cradle religions. These are called cradle religions, where you have the the faith in them, but you cannot justify this faith. It is only a belief, not actually the faith. Shraddha, as we say, it is only a belief in certain things. But behind this, there is a light of the consciousness. There is a power of the consciousness, and that must evolve ultimately in the in the form of a human aspiration towards freedom, towards immortality, towards a godhead, a perfection, things like that. So now, I think the time is right for, if you have some questions, or if there is some questions from the audience, we can clarify those points. And then, if you want, we can give a little gist of or introduction to the two further chapters, that is the two negations, the materialist denial and the refusal of the ascetic. So if you have some questions or some clarifications are required, then you are welcome.
Yoshi?
No,
Yes.
we haven't seen any question on the screen so far.
Okay.
So a participant can unmute and can directly ask. This being the beginning of the journey, questions might not come, but our regular Swadhyay, which we are going to start from coming Thursday again.
Yes. Yes.
It's a
I
growing within and living within the
I
journey.
think,
Yeah, ma'am.
Yoshi, if I can ask a very connected question with the paragraph. Sir, actually, when you were reading the accordance of conscious mind and conscious will with a form and a life in themselves, not overtly self-conscious and capable at best of a mechanical or subconscious will is another problem of opposites. The subconscious will is another problem of opposites. What
Yeah.
actually does Aurobindo mean by that?
Well, you see, there are different levels of consciousness in a human being.
Right.
We have a mental consciousness.
Hmm.
That mental consciousness is expressed in terms of the hidden mentality. You see, there is a subliminal consciousness. That subliminal consciousness is not the active consciousness in front or the surface consciousness. That subliminal consciousness together, there are two layers of this subliminal consciousness, but we say that there is a subconscious and there is a subliminal. Now, subliminal consciousness, you see, they're just like in a Mandukya Upanishad, we say that there is a Jagrata Chetana, the external being, the surface consciousness, and there is a veiled consciousness behind. Surface consciousness has its own vital, and the surface consciousness has its subtle material consciousness also. But that is a surface consciousness. That mind, the surface vital, and the surface body is connected with the inner mind, inner vital, inner subtle physical consciousness. And that is the subliminal being. That is what is known in the Mandukya Upanishad as Swapna Chetana, or Tejas, as it is called in the Mandukya Upanishad, or Hiranyagarbha in the universal consciousness. But there is a hidden consciousness behind. But if you talk about the subconscious proper, then subconscious proper is the consciousness which is below our normal surface consciousness. It is not the subliminal consciousness. Subliminal consciousness is much more powerful, is having a large, kind of a understanding. The mental consciousness is much more higher, much more wider than the surface mental consciousness. The vital is much more pure and powerful in the subliminal consciousness than the external vital, which is full of difficulties. The consciousness of body in the surface consciousness is a kind of a, attached to body itself. But behind the subtle physical consciousness is much more larger and powerful. These are the subliminal consciousness. But when you talk about the subconscious proper, it is below the threshold of the surface consciousness. Just like when we have dreams, what happens when we have dreams, or when we go to sleep? What happens in that case? What happens is that because we are tired, our limbs, our body is completely tired, we go through the subconscious into the inner being. But because subconscious is a kind of a filter which filters out the experiences of the external consciousness in the inner consciousness, and the filters out the experiences of the inner consciousness when we come out of it. So there is a filter of subconscious, and that subconscious, is a normal, field of our dreams. When we have dreams, we are majority of the times, we are dreaming in subconscious. We are seeing pale things, asambandha, disordered kind of experiences. These disordered kind of experiences are the mark of subconscious. What happens is this, that during the Jagrata Chetana, or during the surface consciousness, when we are awake in the full consciousness, then we select. We have a lot of experiences, we have a lot of thoughts, we have a lot of emotions or sensations, but we select only few of them for our purpose of day-to-day life, but we neglect the others. These neglected thoughts, these neglected emotions or sensations, they sink down into the subconscious, and they are manifested in the dream as, disorder kind of things. They do not have an order thoughts or ordered sensations. They manifest themselves as, it is said, sometimes that you experience a human being without body or without a kind of head or without nose or something like that. So these kind of experiences are disordered experiences which are in the subconscious. That is a remnant, or you might say there is a cellar of our consciousness where we throw away unnecessary things which are not useful to us in our day-to-day life. So we throw away all these experiences in the cellar, and that resides, that sinks into that. And during the sleep, when we do not have the control over the external or the surface consciousness, they rise into the dream. And even when we go into the inner consciousness, subliminal consciousness during sleep, we have to go through these subconscious, and subconscious is a filter. So we have to go through that, and that is why unless we have the inner consciousness is very powerful, we do not get the experiences brought out into the external consciousness, or the external consciousness does not go into the inner consciousness. So subconscious is a kind of a filter through which we have to pass when we go from external consciousness or the surface consciousness, Jagrata Chetana, to the subliminal consciousness in deep sleep, or say Swapna Chetana. Normally, it is not deep sleep technically, but it is a kind of a subliminal consciousness where we can have a meaningful experiences. Sometimes when we have a meaningful experiences, these experiences, sometimes we bring out in the surface consciousness, we try to remember those things. Those are the experiences of the subliminal mind, larger mind or larger consciousness. But the subconscious is completely disordered, completely haphazard. It does not have a coherence in itself. It is just, the remnant of our thoughts, remnant of our sensations that are sinking there into the consciousness below surface consciousness, that is brought out in the subliminal, in the subconscious. So that is the subconscious. Sri Aurobindo sometimes, classifies surface consciousness against the subconscious, because it is, we regard those things as not conscious, and therefore subliminal and subconscious sometimes he classifies together. But then when he talks in detail, he says that there is a subliminal consciousness and there is a subconscious. Both are different things. Any other question? I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, sir. So actually, I have multiple questions, but what I think is, I've requested the audience also to post the questions on info.salesy@aurouniversity.edu.in, so that we can assimilate all the questions and then post it to our Dr. Professor Sharad Joshi ji. And even I have many questions, but I think limitation of the time is also we have to consider. So thank you so much, sir. I think it's a great starting. What I've understood is all of us have some or other fundamental, seeking, which is something divine. We always have that kind of aspiration in us, and still, the question which I have related to the perfection, what actually Sri Aurobindo, when he talks about perfection, so that maybe, I will look for in another session. So, sir, thank you so much. And thank you, participants, for being part of our journey. I had a little bit interaction here with the people who are joining are really seeker, and we will keep you posted with some brief summary or brief idea of what will be the next chapter about. And I request all of you to give feedback also, that the pace and the process is fine with you, so that we can be on the same alignment.
I would like to have some feedback from the audience, from the participants, so that if necessary, I can modify my presentation.
Exactly.
This thing. So some kind of feedback is, I would invite some kind of feedback.
So if anybody wants to share, please unmute yourself and share. Otherwise, you can write me on the mail also, which I'll be sharing with sir. If you want.
Though we have shared the full book, some selected passages like what Kiran Madam has shared today, if such 8-10 lines as a gist can be shared a day before or maybe 2-3 days before, we really enjoyed this session today, and it really worked out very well.